voices rise up through the static noise. Double D Podcast with the unfiltered voice. Current events spilling like the wine. Opinions clash in a perfect line. Feeling the pulse of what's in the air.
All right, Dave. We are live on the air today for the first time.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, this is cool. I think we recorded the first two, and I think we are trying to figure this whole podcast thing out. But today we're just gonna go for it, and we're live on the air now, I believe. So
Let's do it, man.
So
Good start to the week.
Absolutely. So to get started, my wife and I decided to watch the Joe Rogan Netflix special on Saturday, and boy, that was wild. The man was unhinged and very different than like his podcast if you're used to listening to that. So what I think what we're used to hearing is him listening and him providing some feedback and things like that versus perhaps being on some narcotic binge and talking, a little bit off the rails on a bunch of topics. But I know you haven't yet watched it, right, Dave?
I have not watched it yet. It's definitely on the list, and now you bumped to the top of the list. But like you said, it is interesting that, usually he's not the center of the podcast, right? He has guests on. He's asking them questions, a very good moderator. So it's interesting to see him totally different. And,
Yeah.
And it's almost like, is he not very good at on his own? Or is he just that good at being a podcaster? Or maybe he's a little bit of both, or maybe he just had some pre-show festivities.
Well, I mean, obviously Netflix thinks it's good enough for it to be, a major special.
Aliens do to us. I think aliens look at us the same way we look.
Here, and let's watch.
I think the dumbest argument that aliens aren't real. People go, if aliens are real, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? Oh, well, when you go fishing, do you check in with the president of the lake? No, you just trick those dummies with fake food, and then you pull them out by their lips and take pictures of them, and you drop them back off in the water, and they're like, what the fuck just happened? Exact same things the aliens do to us. I think aliens look at us the same way we look at Waffle House fights. They just observe, like, what the fuck is going on over here?
So, obviously that's, pretty hilarious bit right there. I enjoyed a lot of the skits to it, but like he goes on rants about, like male genitalia and male anal pleasures, and it's weird. I mean, his wife watching this, like, or hearing, I mean, she's got to have some questions. Like,
Got to talk to with.
Yeah, or and if the talking to was before and this is what it got limited to, then wow. So Netflix obviously is pushing certain agendas and certain thoughts on everybody, but that was a lot. I think if you went and did a Control F for the script of that whole special, you would have way more penises and things that were talked about than maybe the ums and the thes. It was that prevalent. I mean, the entire thing was about ejaculate or something. It was too much for I think if you're at a party and like there's this one guy that's making some jokes, it's kind of like, okay, a couple of those can slide, but there's a line, right, where you don't want to hear like the entire conversation like that weird. Like
It's probably what, 2 hours? Hour and a half?
It was it was probably way over an hour for sure. Like the bit, I don't know, but it seemed to be way too long. Like for
could have been cut off
for the topic. I mean, it was uncomfortable watching it. But anyway, so yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know that I would recommend it, but it's
maybe make a drink before.
Yeah, it's something. But there definitely is a lot of stuff that he talks about that's really funny.
Yeah.
And he's very animated the entire time. So it's fun to watch somebody be so wild and crazy when you're not necessarily expecting it. I've seen his stand up, back to when he had hair. And he's had a lot of great stuff, and I think generally, he's a pretty moderate person that a lot of people on, all sides of things agree with, and, thinks a lot of things. And he talks about a lot of that in the Netflix special. It's not, he's not pulling punches, but he's also, stating some of his, stronger opinions. And I think that's cool when somebody like isn't afraid to, take a stance on stuff. And obviously he's taken some pretty big ones. So.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, sometimes maybe the stance is a little far-fetched or a little over the top, but I guess it's better than being boring and talk about and, want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, on the topic of, talking about, people producing stuff and, kind of segueing into, in a terrible segue, I want to talk about art.
That's a perfect segue.
Yeah, it was something. But you're familiar, obviously, with Jackson Pollock and the splash paintings. So I saw I think in today's day and age we see so much content that's produced, and we see stuff that people are commenting on and unveiling to us like what some of the background real story was. And it's not all just conspiracy stuff. There's all kinds of cool stuff on the internet. And I seen recently that some of the initial sales of a lot of like modern artists were sales of paintings right after the Cold War, during the Cold War, where the CIA was actually purchasing through like U.S. museums pieces of abstract modern art. And this painting, Autumn Rhythm, number 30 by Jackson Pollock, was purchased for, in one article I saw 30,000, another article I saw 20,000. Obviously in today's dollars, that's a little bit more than 10x the value from 1957. But a year after he died, the Central Intelligence Agency purchased his paintings. Essentially is what people were saying.
They just really like art.
Well, I will say, to give the government some credit, that actually seems to be a pretty good investment.
Yeah.
Because in this article here,
putting the tax dollars to work usefully.
I believe, it values the painting somewhere north of $140 million. But even if it's, a few $1 million, that beat the heck out of inflation, because I think, if it was 30,000, that's a little over 330,000 today in value. So, good job to the government.
Pretty good ROI.
Making a decent investment there. But that's wild that our intelligence agency, if that's true, was basically buying modern art. I'm not sure what the value of that was and what that has to do with the Cold War, but that one of those crazy things you see on the internet.
It's a need to know. You don't need to know, I guess.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
Now, speaking of this piece, and I'm no art connoisseur by any means. Do you like that painting? Pay $140 million for this one now?
If I thought it was going to be worth a lot more later, I don't know. I mean, I don't see more than the splashing of the paint. Supposedly it invokes motion, and there's some, there's some meaning to it. And, I don't, maybe if you're like Joe Rogan and dabbling in some extracurricular psychedelics, then, maybe there's something more there.
It could be. That would actually make the most sense. Yeah, I just see splash paint against this.
Well, good for the Pollock family, I guess, to have started to make some major returns on.
And good for the CIA.
Yeah. Unreal. And
you said this is housed in the Met, right?
I initially
looks like
initially that museum was the original purchaser. And so there was a lady that filed an FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. Looking into like, why did the government spend money back then on all this modern art? She was looking into a different artist, and in her Freedom of Information request, they did send her back 80 plus pages of fully redacted documents that didn't give any dollar amounts, any artists, or any pictures of any paintings. But it was 81 pages long.
That is helpful.
Yeah.
Super,
So I
super.
really appreciate that we put that together for her as a country, so we could be so transparent as to our government spending. But apparently, the comment back was that they do intend to publish like and provide like all of their inventory of what they have, and maybe even like do more of a exhibition of it.
I'd be curious to see that list.
Yeah,
If-
but
if
it's supposed to be pretty
non-redacted.
impressive.
Yeah.
So.
They're trying to be like the British royal family, I guess.
And
Billions
that
of dollars worth of art.
one of the interesting things when I go down these rabbit holes of
Yeah.
looking up stuff online on the weekends, and sometimes just when you're just Googling stuff, and apparently the British royal family is the #1 owner of I don't know what type of art, but of
Fine art? Is that
fine,
right?
yeah, possibly. So another government
Yes.
owning all the art. So interesting. So
We're like 1,000 years behind them on the collection of art, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure they'll make up the ground.
yeah, we're only 250 plus
Yeah,
years
give us a
old as a
break.
country, so
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Mhm.
So, buying the modern stuff, and we are on the leading edge of making fake stuff.
Yes, we are.
So-
We definitely are on that. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah, and a massive portion of our S&P is AI. So look how good our AI is. So the crowds published from the Harris Waltz campaign. So the crowds that they put in the background when they were speaking, when they were getting off the plane,
Mhm.
are now mostly believed to have been created by artificial intelligence.
That's not that surprising, I guess is the right way to put that. I mean, I think just before we get into it, just the birth and the growth of AI is just staggering, right? It's kind of one of those things. Like, oh, yeah, it's coming. It's 10, 20 years away. It's here. And you're almost behind the 8 ball if you haven't already gotten somehow into it, right? Either investing in it or utilizing it or whatever it is. And so it's kind of amazing that, these things that seem so far out are here quickly.
It
And
is
being
wild.
used by official social media accounts for running to be the leader of the free world. So it is alive and well and being utilized. Now, whether that's being utilized well and properly, I think that's probably the biggest question here. Who's doing it? Because they could use some improvements. Yes.
Absolutely. And speaking of improvements, Dave, you want to maybe point out a couple of the oddities here in this picture that we were just talking over before we got the show started?
Yeah, there's quite a bit to touch on. I mean, if you kind of look I'll start back to front. So kind of in the background, just that whole crowd sort of in the second level looks like my old Ken Griffey Jr. Major League Baseball game from Super Nintendo, like in 1994.
Is it that good?
It's actually worse than that. Yes, it's not quite that good because that game's the greatest of all time. But yeah, not as good as that. So that's 30 years ahead and still not as good. But then kind of moving forward, we've got a lot of looks like duplicates of people and people that have same face but different outfits on, and all people don't have all their fingers on the hand, which maybe that's the true thing.
Are these
happen, but I think these people have
genetically off people
it
here?
could be.
Or?
It just in this shot, it could be just totally coincidentally, but I'm going to err on the side of caution that it's probably not. Like this gentleman I don't even know what's going on there. His eyes are closed or one's open, but he has no pupils or something like that. And then in the first row, it looks to me to be the same person 3 times, 2 different outfits, hair's different, and pulled back, and then glasses at it. So that's either maybe it could be triplets on the front row, but I think that's just more of the AI at work here.
This
If I had
guy
to
here
guess.
is holding somebody that isn't theirs hand, or he's Goro. He's holding one of his extra
Yeah,
hands.
It could be.
We've got distorted face, eyes falling off people's heads. That's portions of faces put together.
Well, I think what's interesting in
A
this,
lot of twins.
yeah, I was in a lot of twins. So there's triplets in the first row, and then 2 sets of twins, and just this about 12-person little, shots. That's just maybe that's the twin and triplet section, and they just didn't get the non-twin section. But I don't know. It could just be AI maybe at work. Not very well.
No, not yet, but it is scary to think of where, like, when it is working well,
Correct.
what are we going to be able to trust? So obviously, pretty failed effort of, faking people caring about her getting off the plane, that many people in the crowd. Talk to us a little bit about shots here and what we have on the screen now.
Yeah, what's kind of bizarre is when you kind of look at on the bottom, you can actually see the reflection off the plane back into the supposed crowd, and there's literally no one there. So I trust that more than the AI generated images. But yeah, certainly bizarre too, because when you kind of zoom in, you can see people holding up their phones, supposedly taking a picture, and everyone's phone is showing something different. No one's actually capturing the picture that they're supposedly taking and looking at. So that's just also very odd, at least. And I think just on the AI, not just the quality of it right now being a little bit lacking, but the gall, I guess, for these campaigns to actually utilize this stuff that isn't very good is pretty surprising already. Like if it was perfect and you really can't tell the difference, I would expect it more, but like they're just throwing stuff together that it's far from perfect.
Well, how dumb do they think people are?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Like, do they really think that, like, somebody, I mean, people are looking at everything. They're trying, everyone's trying to get famous. They're trying to put stuff online. They're trying to say, hey, look at this issue that somebody had. And people think everything is fake and stuff that's not even fake. Mm-hmm. So the gall, that was a great, way to frame it. Like the audacity to say that people are so dumb, they're not going to see that all of the cell phones are showing that there aren't any people there, or there are people there with those phones, but they just plugged in a whole bunch of extra people. Maybe next time don't plug in a bunch of distorted people. Don't have like all the text on all the T-shirts, showing like just random like gibberish across their shirts because AI isn't yet good at like doing text. But it's a lot to just try to pass this through, over the American population that, hey, there's this many people that are cheering for this person, so you should too.
Yeah, and I think like it's not like this campaign is running for like the president of their HOA, right? This is the president of the country. So to do this is, like I said, it's the audacity of assuming people just aren't going to catch on. It's pretty amazing. Like I said, knowing in this society, everything is online. Everyone's watching. You're not going to slip a fast one.
It would be scary enough to have HOA president.
Which that is terrifying, yes.
But let alone...
if my HOA president had a rally like that, then good for them, Yeah.
So just, I don't know, what they're trying to pull on us seems a little wild. So I think that's about it for today's podcast. I mean, I didn't really have much else I wanted to go over. I didn't want to talk about how crazy the Rogan special was, and I don't know, what I think about Pollock and what the government's doing, buying art and whatnot. But I found that interesting, and this is something.
This is something for sure. So, yeah, and it'll be interesting to compare, in a year from now, how much better the AI they're utilizing gets.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully for them, the AI people can vote.
I hope so.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up.